From private jets to prison cells, these billionaires have lost everything. Today, we dive into the shocking stories of 20 ultra-wealthy individuals who traded their mansions for metal bars. These former titans of industry, from crypto king Sam Bankman-Fried to Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes, now call prison their home. Their crimes cost investors billions and ruined countless lives. We'll reveal how these billionaires built their empires on lies, greed, and corruption, only to watch it all crumble as justice finally caught up with them. From massive Ponzi schemes to elaborate frauds, these are the fallen billionaires who went from Forbes lists to prison registers. 20. Sam Bankman-Fried, cryptocurrency's fallen wunderkind. In a dramatic fall from grace that shook the cryptocurrency world, Sam Bankman-Fried began serving his 25-year prison sentence in March 2024. The former CEO of FTX, who had amassed a staggering peak net worth of $26 billion, stood convicted of orchestrating one of history's largest financial frauds. From his beginnings as an MIT graduate to becoming a crypto titan by age 29, SBF's story epitomizes the dangers of unchecked ambition in the digital age. His cryptocurrency exchange FTX collapsed spectacularly in November 2022, revealing a massive scheme that defrauded investors of billions. The subsequent investigation uncovered how he had systematically misappropriated customer funds, using them for luxury real estate purchases, political donations, and high-risk trading through his hedge fund Alameda Research. Despite his carefully crafted image as a philanthropic wunderkind and his attempts to portray himself as merely negligent rather than criminal, the evidence showed systematic and intentional fraud. Now, instead of his famous beanbag chair and luxury Bahamas penthouse, SBF occupies a standard cell in a federal prison. His fall serves as a cautionary tale for the crypto industry, highlighting the risks of unregulated financial innovation and the consequences of betraying investor trust. The young billionaire's imprisonment marks the end of an era of crypto exuberance and the beginning of stricter oversight in the digital asset space. 19. Elizabeth Holmes, the Theranos deception. Elizabeth Holmes, once celebrated as the world's youngest self-made female billionaire, now occupies a cell in a Texas federal prison, serving an 11-year sentence that marks the dramatic conclusion of Silicon Valley's most notorious fraud case. Her company Theranos promised to revolutionize blood testing with groundbreaking technology that claimed to run hundreds of tests using just a few drops of blood. Holmes built an impressive $9 billion empire on these promises, attracting high-profile investors and board members who believed in her vision. However, the carefully constructed facade began crumbling in 2015 when Wall Street Journal investigations revealed the technology never worked as promised. The extensive fraud involved fake demonstrations, manipulated test results, and deliberate deception of investors, patients, and the public. Despite her carefully crafted image as a visionary entrepreneur, complete with black turtlenecks and an artificially deepened voice, Holmes couldn't escape the consequences of her actions. Her conviction on 4 counts of defrauding investors marked the end of Silicon Valley's fake-it-till-you-make-it era. Now the former billionaire spends her days in prison, far from the luxurious lifestyle she once enjoyed. Her case serves as a powerful reminder of the dangers of prioritizing image over substance in the startup world and how the pursuit of innovation must be balanced with ethical considerations and scientific integrity. 18. Alan Stanford, the Caribbean cricket fraudster. Robert Allen Stanford, once a flamboyant billionaire known for his lavish cricket tournaments and Caribbean banking empire, now serves a 110-year sentence in a high-security federal prison. His $7 billion Ponzi scheme, which primarily operated through Stanford International Bank in Antigua, collapsed spectacularly in 2009, revealing one of the largest financial frauds in history. Stanford sold fraudulent certificates of deposit, promising impossibly high returns while using new investors' money to pay earlier investors. His extravagant lifestyle included a fleet of private jets, numerous yachts, and even his own cricket stadium in Antigua. The self-styled Sir Alan, having been knighted by Antigua's government, used his wealth to become a major figure in international cricket, sponsoring tournaments and attempting to revolutionize the sport. However, his empire crumbled when investigators uncovered the massive fraud, revealing how he had systematically siphoned off billions for personal use while maintaining a facade of legitimate banking operations. The investigation exposed how Stanford had bribed officials, falsified records, and created an elaborate network of shell companies to perpetuate his fraud. Today, Stanford's cricket dreams and billions are long gone as he faces the reality of dying behind bars, serving as a stark reminder of how the mighty can fall when their empires are built on fraudulent foundations. 17. Raj Rajaratnam, the fallen hedge fund titan. Once the toast of Wall Street as founder of the Galleon Group hedge fund, Raj Rajaratnam's empire came crashing down in one of the biggest insider trading cases in US history. Worth an estimated $1.3 billion at his peak, Rajaratnam now serves time in federal prison after being convicted of 14 counts of securities fraud and conspiracy. His sophisticated insider trading network included high-ranking corporate executives, management consultants, and fellow traders who provided him with confidential information about major companies like Intel, Google, and IBM. The investigation, which included unprecedented use of wiretaps in a white-collar case, revealed how Rajaratnam orchestrated a complex web of illegal trades that generated millions in profits. The evidence showed how he cultivated sources inside major corporations, using his charm and wealth to build a network of informants who provided him with valuable inside information. Despite spending over $40 million on his defense and claiming his trades were based on legitimate research, the evidence of his systematic abuse of insider information proved overwhelming. The FBI's wiretaps captured numerous incriminating conversations, showing how he actively sought and traded on illegal information. His conviction marked a turning point in the prosecution of Wall Street crimes and sent shockwaves through the hedge fund industry, leading to increased scrutiny of trading practices and compliance procedures. 16. Mikhail Khodorkovsky, the oil oligarch's downfall. Though now free, Mikhail Khodorkovsky's decade-long imprisonment stands as a stark reminder of how quickly fortunes can change in the volatile world of Russian business and politics. Once Russia's richest man with a net worth exceeding $15 billion, Khodorkovsky built his empire through Yukos oil during the privatization of Soviet assets in the 1990s. His arrest in 2003 and subsequent imprisonment on charges of fraud and tax evasion marked a significant shift in Russian politics under Vladimir Putin's leadership. The case was widely seen as politically motivated, stemming from his criticism of President Putin and his funding of opposition parties. During his imprisonment, Khodorkovsky endured harsh conditions in Siberian penal colonies while watching his oil empire being systematically dismantled and sold off to state-controlled companies. His case became a symbol of the risks faced by Russian businessmen who challenge political authority. The decade he spent behind bars transformed him from an oligarch to a symbol of political resistance. Despite losing his fortune and spending years in prison, Khodorkovsky emerged as a prominent voice for democratic reform in Russia. His story serves as a powerful reminder of the precarious nature of wealth in countries where political loyalty can matter more than business acumen or legal rights. 15. Bernie Ebbers, the WorldCom fraudster. Bernie Ebbers, the former CEO of WorldCom who died in prison in 2020, orchestrated one of the largest accounting frauds in American corporate history. Under his leadership, WorldCom grew from a small Mississippi long-distance company into a telecommunications giant through aggressive acquisitions and creative accounting. However, this growth masked massive accounting fraud, with the company inflating its assets by around $11 billion through fake accounting entries and improper expense classifications. Ebbers, who began his career as a milkman and basketball coach, built a personal fortune exceeding $1.4 billion at his peak. His downfall came when investigations revealed WorldCom's fraudulent practices, which included classifying operating expenses as capital expenditures to inflate profits artificially. The company's collapse in 2002 resulted in thousands of job losses and billions in investor losses, making it one of the most devastating corporate failures in US history. Despite his attempts to claim ignorance of the fraud and portray himself as a hands-off manager, Ebbers was sentenced to 25 years in prison. His case led to significant reforms in corporate governance and accounting oversight, while his death in prison served as a reminder of the severe consequences of corporate fraud. 14. John Kapoor, the opioid crisis profiteer. John Kapoor, founder of Insys Therapeutics and once worth over $2.4 billion, now serves a 5.5-year prison sentence for his role in a scheme that contributed to America's devastating opioid crisis. His company marketed Subsys, a powerful fentanyl spray, through an elaborate conspiracy that included bribing doctors to prescribe the highly addictive painkiller. The scheme involved sophisticated racketeering, including speaker fees, lavish dinners, and even exotic dancer hiring to entice doctors into prescribing the drug for off-label use. Kapoor's case highlighted the pharmaceutical industry's dark role in fueling the opioid epidemic through aggressive and illegal marketing practices. Throughout his trial, evidence revealed how Insys executives created fake cancer patients to fool insurance companies and pressured sales representatives to push doctors for higher prescriptions. Despite building his fortune through various pharmaceutical ventures over decades, Kapoor's legacy is now defined by his conviction on racketeering charges. His imprisonment marked one of the first successful prosecutions of pharmaceutical executives for their role in the opioid crisis. The case set a precedent for holding pharmaceutical executives personally accountable for their company's illegal practices. From his prison cell, Kapoor's fall from grace serves as a stark warning to pharmaceutical executives about the consequences of putting profits over patient safety. 13. Matthias Krull, the Venezuelan money launderer. German-born banker Matthias Krull, once a prominent figure in Venezuela's financial elite with a net worth estimated over $1 billion, now serves time for his role in a massive money laundering scheme that exposed the corruption within Venezuela's oil industry. As a private wealth manager at Julius Baer Group, Krull helped launder $1.2 billion embezzled from Venezuela's state-owned oil company, PDVSA. The sophisticated scheme involved complex financial transactions across multiple jurisdictions, fake investment schemes, and luxury real estate deals in Miami's premium market. Krull's network included high-ranking Venezuelan government officials, professional money launderers, and members of the country's wealthy elite. His case highlighted the crucial role of professional enablers in facilitating corruption and money laundering across borders. Despite his attempts to cooperate with authorities after his arrest, the extent of his involvement in the scheme led to a significant prison sentence. The investigation revealed how Krull used his expertise in private banking to create elaborate networks of shell companies and offshore accounts to hide the origins of stolen funds. His fall from grace serves as a powerful reminder of the risks faced by bankers who facilitate illegal financial schemes even when operating in countries known for corruption. 12. Bo Xilai, China's fallen political star. Though not technically a billionaire himself, Bo Xilai controlled vast wealth through his position as a senior Chinese official before his dramatic fall from power. His imprisonment on charges of corruption, bribery, and abuse of power marked one of China's biggest political scandals of the modern era. As party chief of Chongqing, Bo implemented popular but controversial policies while amassing significant hidden wealth through his family connections and corrupt practices. His downfall began with his wife's involvement in the murder of British businessman Neil Haywood, which led to investigations that revealed extensive corruption networks. The case exposed the intricate intersection of wealth and power in Chinese politics, with evidence showing how Bo and his family had accumulated hundreds of millions in assets through corrupt dealings and abuse of power. His dramatic trial revealed details of bribes, embezzlement, and illicit wealth that shocked even cynical observers of Chinese politics. Despite his previous status as a member of China's powerful Politburo and his family's revolutionary heritage, Bo received a life sentence. His imprisonment represented a dramatic fall for someone who had once been considered a serious contender for China's top leadership positions. Today he serves his sentence in Xinjiang prison, a facility reserved for high-ranking officials far from the corridors of power he once dominated. 11. Jeffrey Skilling, the Enron architect. Jeffrey Skilling, the former CEO of Enron who masterminded its transformation from an energy supplier into a global trading giant, served 12 years in prison for his role in one of corporate America's most infamous scandals. During his tenure, Skilling used aggressive accounting practices, mark-to-market accounting, and off-balance sheet entities to hide billions in debt while inflating profits. His innovative but ultimately fraudulent financial engineering helped build Enron into America's seventh-largest corporation before its spectacular collapse in 2001. The scandal resulted in thousands of employees losing their jobs and retirement savings, while investors lost billions in what became a symbol of corporate fraud and greed. Despite maintaining his innocence and arguing that Enron's collapse was due to a market panic rather than fraud, Skilling was convicted on 19 counts of fraud, conspiracy, and insider trading. His case led to major reforms in corporate governance and accounting practices, including the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. Throughout his trial, evidence revealed how he had created a culture of aggressive risk-taking and financial deception that ultimately destroyed one of America's most admired companies. While he was released from prison in 2019 after serving 12 years, his legacy remains one of corporate hubris and failed leadership. 10. Eike Batista, Brazil's fallen commodity king. Once Brazil's richest man with a peak net worth of $35 billion, Ike Batista's empire collapsed spectacularly, leading to his imprisonment on corruption and money laundering charges. Batista built his fortune through mining and oil exploration companies, becoming a symbol of Brazil's economic boom in the 2000s. He famously boasted about becoming the world's richest person, but his company's promises of mineral wealth and oil discoveries proved largely empty. His downfall accelerated when his oil company OGX admitted its oil fields were largely dry, leading to the largest corporate default in Latin American history. Subsequent investigations revealed his involvement in a massive bribery scheme involving Rio de Janeiro state officials and construction contracts. Despite his attempts to rebuild his reputation and business empire, Batista faced multiple criminal charges. His case became emblematic of the corruption that plagued Brazil's business and political elite. The man who once parked his $500,000 McLaren sports car in his living room now faces the harsh reality of Brazil's prison system. His fall from grace included the loss of his luxury boats, aircraft, and vast real estate holdings. The investigation exposed how he had manipulated markets, bribed officials, and deceived investors about his company's prospects. Today, his case serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unbridled ambition and the consequences of corporate fraud. 9. Thomas Kwok, Hong Kong's real estate prisoner. Thomas Kwok, former co-chairman of Sun Hung Kai Properties, Hong Kong's largest property developer, served 5 years in prison for corruption in a case that shook the foundations of Hong Kong's business establishment. Once worth over $16 billion alongside his brother Raymond, Kwok was convicted of paying millions in bribes to Hong Kong's former Chief Secretary Raphael Hui to maintain favorable relations with the government. The case exposed the cozy relationships between the city's tycoons and government officials, leading to increased scrutiny of business-government ties. During his imprisonment, Kwok went from living in one of Hong Kong's most expensive homes to occupying a small cell in Stanley Prison. The investigation revealed a complex web of payments disguised as consulting fees and loans, showing how corruption had become embedded in Hong Kong's property sector. Despite his family's powerful connections and massive wealth, Kwok couldn't escape justice when authorities decided to crack down on corporate corruption. His conviction marked a turning point in Hong Kong's approach to business corruption and demonstrated that even the city's most powerful families weren't above the law. The case led to significant reforms in corporate governance and government oversight of the property sector. 8. Robert Moffat, IBM's insider trading executive. Though not a billionaire in his own right, Robert Moffat was on track to become CEO of IBM before his involvement in the Galleon Group insider trading scandal led to his dramatic downfall and imprisonment. As a senior vice president at IBM, Moffat had access to confidential information about major technology companies, which he shared with his romantic interest, Danielle Chiesi, a hedge fund consultant. The information included critical details about IBM's quarterly earnings, advanced micro-devices restructuring plans, and other sensitive corporate matters. His case highlighted how personal relationships could compromise corporate confidentiality and lead to devastating consequences. Despite his distinguished 31-year career at IBM, where he had risen through the ranks to become one of the company's most trusted executives, Moffat served 6 months in prison for his role in the scheme. The investigation revealed how he had betrayed his corporate responsibilities for personal reasons, sharing insider information that was then used for profitable trades. His fall from grace served as a powerful reminder that even the most successful executives could risk everything through insider trading. The case exposed the vulnerable intersection of personal relationships and corporate secrets, leading to enhanced compliance measures across the technology industry. Today, his story is used in corporate training programs as a cautionary tale about the importance of maintaining professional boundaries and ethical standards. 6. Eng Lap Seng, Macau's real estate tycoon. Macau real estate billionaire Eng Lap Seng serves a 4-year prison sentence for orchestrating an elaborate scheme to bribe United Nations officials to support his ambitious dream of building a multi-billion-dollar conference center. Once worth over $1.8 billion, Eng used his wealth and connections to orchestrate a sophisticated bribery scheme involving cash payments and wire transfers to secure support for his development plans. The case exposed corruption at the highest levels of the United Nations and highlighted how wealthy individuals could attempt to buy influence in international organizations. The investigation revealed how Eng had systematically paid off officials to gain support for his plan to build a UN conference center in Macau, which would have significantly increased the value of his real estate holdings. Despite his age and numerous health concerns, Eng's conviction demonstrated that even politically connected billionaires could face justice for corruption. His imprisonment marked a significant victory for international anti-corruption efforts and led to reforms in UN procurement processes. The case revealed the complex networks of influence that wealthy individuals could build across international organizations. Throughout his trial, evidence showed how Eng had used his legitimate business operations as cover for a years-long bribery scheme that reached into the highest levels of international diplomacy. 5. Wu Xiaohui, Anbang Insurance's fallen chief. Wu Xiaohui, former chairman of Anbang Insurance Group and once worth billions, now serves an 18-year prison sentence for fraudulent fundraising and embezzlement in one of China's most significant financial crime cases. Under his leadership, Anbang grew from a small provincial car insurance company into a global investment powerhouse, acquiring luxury hotels like New York's Waldorf Astoria. However, detailed investigations revealed that Wu had oversold insurance products and misappropriated premium income for his personal use and overseas investments. The case highlighted the risks in China's financial sector and led to increased scrutiny of insurance companies' investment practices. Despite his marriage into a politically powerful family, Wu couldn't escape prosecution when authorities decided to crack down on financial risk-taking. The investigation exposed how he had built a complex web of corporate entities to hide the true nature of his activities, using insurance premiums to fund a global acquisition spree. His case became a symbol of China's efforts to rein in financial risk and crack down on corrupt business practices. The dramatic fall of Wu, who once hosted global business leaders and politicians at his luxury hotels, demonstrated the Chinese government's willingness to target even well-connected business figures in its campaign against financial crimes. 4. Zhenli Yegon, the pharmaceutical kingpin. Mexican-Chinese businessman Zhenli Yegon, once worth billions through his pharmaceutical empire, now serves time for drug trafficking and money laundering in a case that captured international attention. His downfall began when authorities seized $205 million in cash from his Mexico City mansion, the largest cash seizure in history at that time. Yegon's company, Unimed Pharm Chem, was accused of importing massive quantities of chemicals used to manufacture methamphetamine, while maintaining a facade of legitimate pharmaceutical business operations. His case exemplified how legitimate businesses could be used as fronts for international criminal enterprises. Despite claiming the money was legitimate savings for casino gambling, evidence showed his deep involvement in international drug trafficking networks. The investigation revealed a complex operation that used pharmaceutical imports as cover for precursor chemicals used in drug manufacturing. His arrest sparked diplomatic tensions between Mexico, China, and the United States, with multiple countries seeking his extradition. The case highlighted the sophisticated methods used by drug traffickers to infiltrate legitimate business sectors. From his luxury mansions and private jets, Yegon's lifestyle crumbled as authorities uncovered the true nature of his business empire. His imprisonment marked a significant victory in the international war against drug trafficking and demonstrated the increasing sophistication of law enforcement in tracking complex financial crimes across borders. 3. Manuel Chang, Mozambique's hidden billionaire. Former Mozambique Finance Minister Manuel Chang, who allegedly accumulated billions through corrupt deals, now awaits trial in US custody after being extradited from South Africa. Chang stands accused of orchestrating a $2 billion fraud involving maritime projects and government-guaranteed loans that nearly bankrupted his nation. Though his official salary was modest, investigations revealed vast hidden wealth accumulated through kickbacks and corrupt deals involving international banks and global investors. The scandal exposed how government officials could amass enormous wealth through corruption while devastating their country's economy. The complex scheme involved fraudulent loans supposedly meant for maritime projects, including coastal surveillance and tuna fishing vessels. However, much of the money disappeared into offshore accounts and kickback payments. Chang's case highlighted the challenges of fighting corruption in developing nations and the role of international financial institutions in enabling such fraud. His extradition to the United States marked a rare instance of a former African finance minister facing justice in American courts. The investigation revealed how Chang had used his position to approve government guarantees for loans that enriched him and his conspirators, while leaving Mozambique's taxpayers with massive debt. His case led to significant reforms in international lending practices and increased scrutiny of sovereign loans to developing nations. 1. R. Alan Stanford, the cricket-loving fraudster. While mentioned earlier, Stanford's case deserves the top spot as one of the most dramatic falls from grace in financial history. His $7 billion Ponzi scheme operated for over 2 decades, during which he built a personal fortune estimated at $2.2 billion. Stanford's fraud was particularly devastating because it targeted middle-class investors in the Caribbean and Latin America, many of whom lost their life savings. His attempts to become a cricket mogul by sponsoring tournaments in the Caribbean added a unique dimension to his fraud. Unlike most financial fraudsters, Stanford created an entire alternate persona as a sports benefactor, even receiving a knighthood from Antigua's government. Today, Stanford serves his 110-year sentence in a high-security federal prison, where his once luxurious lifestyle has been reduced to a small cell. His case serves as the ultimate cautionary tale of how financial fraud, no matter how sophisticated or well-disguised, eventually unravels. The billions he amassed through his fraudulent certificates of deposit scheme have largely disappeared, leaving thousands of victims still fighting to recover their losses. His imprisonment marked the end of an era of excess and fraud in offshore banking, leading to stricter regulations and increased scrutiny of Caribbean financial institutions.